The alarm screamed through the halls of Earth Defense Command like nothing Admiral Jake Morrison had ever heard before. He ran down the metal corridors as fast as his aging legs could carry him, his heart pounding against his chest. 20 years of military service had prepared him for many things, but not for this moment. The moment when humanity would no longer be alone in the universe. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Brooks was already at her station when Morrison burst through the command center doors. Her fingers danced across the holographic displays while sweat beaded on her forehead. The massive screens around the room showed star charts and energy readings that made no sense according to everything they knew about physics. "Report," Morrison barked as he took his position at the central command chair. "Sir, we have 12 massive objects that appeared near Jupiter 15 minutes ago," Brooks said without looking away from her console. "They're big, Admiral. Each one is at least 5 times the size of our largest battleship." Morrison felt his stomach drop. For decades, scientists had debated whether humanity was alone in the galaxy. Some hoped for peaceful contact, while others feared invasion. As the head of Earth's defense forces, Morrison had always planned for the worst-case scenario. Captain Alex Turner received the emergency transmission while his ship, the UES Ranger, was on patrol near the asteroid belt. His crew of 35 had been conducting routine surveys when the call came through. Turner had served under Morrison for 8 years and knew the Admiral never panicked. If Morrison was calling for immediate assistance, the situation was dire. "Chief, plot a course for Jupiter orbit at maximum speed," Turner ordered his navigation officer. His hands gripped the armrests of his captain's chair as the ship's engines roared to life. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the ship's science officer, was already analyzing the energy signatures transmitted from Earth Command. She had studied theoretical xenobiology for years, but never expected to use that knowledge in a real first-contact situation. The readings showed technology far beyond anything humans had developed. "Captain, these energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases," Rodriguez reported. "Whatever created them has mastery over forces we barely understand." Communications specialist Danny Walsh worked frantically to boost the ship's long-range sensors. His expertise in alien languages was about to be tested in ways he had only dreamed about during his years at the Academy. Every science fiction, movie, and book seemed inadequate preparation for this moment. Back on Earth, President Karen Foster stood in the Global Defense Council war room surrounded by advisors and military officials. The weight of humanity's future rested on her shoulders as she watched the tactical displays. Foster had been elected on a platform of peace and cooperation, but now she faced the possibility of interstellar war. "Madam President, we need to consider evacuation protocols for major population centers," suggested General Pete Harrison, the head of Earth's ground forces. Harrison had fought in 3 different conflicts during his career, but nothing had prepared him for the prospect of fighting aliens with unknown capabilities. Foster shook her head. "We don't know their intentions yet. Panic could cause more damage than the aliens themselves." Commander Ryan Carter watched the alien fleet through the powerful telescopes at Luna Base. The Moon facility served as humanity's first line of defense and early warning system. Carter had volunteered for the isolated posting to be part of something important, though he never imagined it would be this important. His partner, Dr. Claire Adams, worked beside him, analyzing the strange energy readings that poured in from their instruments. Adams specialized in theoretical physics and had written papers about faster-than-light travel that were considered pure fantasy until today. "Ryan, look at this," Adams called out, pointing to her screen. "The energy output from those ships is incredible, but it's contained. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already." Carter felt a small spark of hope. Maybe they're not here to fight. The alien ships maintained perfect formation as they hung in space near Jupiter. They made no aggressive moves toward Earth or any human installations. Their massive hulls reflected sunlight in patterns that seemed almost beautiful rather than threatening. Captain Ben Lewis commanded the patrol vessel UES Guardian, which was closest to the alien position when they arrived. His crew of 20 had the best view of the mysterious visitors. Lewis had served in the outer system patrols for 5 years and thought he had seen everything space had to offer. "Sir, they're not moving toward us," reported his tactical officer. "They're just sitting there." Lewis studied the alien ships through his view screen. Despite their enormous size, They had an elegant design that suggested advanced engineering rather than pure military might. Keep our distance but maintain observation. Don't do anything that could be seen as hostile. Dr. Tony Martinez, Earth's leading expert on xenobiology, worked furiously in his laboratory to prepare for potential contact. Martinez had spent his career studying the possibility of alien life, but theory was very different from reality. He tried to imagine what beings capable of building such massive ships might look like. The hours passed slowly, as humanity held its collective breath. News networks around the world reported the arrival while governments urged calm. Some people celebrated the historic moment while others prepared for the worst. Engineer Sam Foster led the technical team aboard Olympus Station, humanity's largest space facility. His job was to analyze any alien technology they might encounter. Foster had always believed that human engineering could solve any problem, but these ships challenged everything he thought he knew about physics. As the alien fleet maintained its position, something unexpected happened. A signal began broadcasting on multiple frequencies, reaching every receiver in the solar system. The transmission was brief but clear, spoken in perfect English, with a voice that sounded almost human. Greetings, people of Earth. We come in peace and offer assistance. We are the Kalari, and we have been watching your species with great interest. We request permission to approach your world for peaceful contact. Admiral Morrison stared at the communication console in disbelief. After preparing for invasion, humanity had received an offer of help. The message repeated in dozens of Earth languages, suggesting the aliens knew far more about humanity than anyone had imagined. President Foster took a deep breath before responding to the alien message. Her words would be the first official communication between humanity and another intelligent species. Welcome to our solar system, she said. We accept your offer of peaceful contact and grant permission for your approach to Earth. The die was cast, and humanity's greatest adventure was about to begin. The first meeting between humans and aliens took place aboard Admiral Morrison's flagship, the UES Valiant. Ambassador Helen Parker had been chosen to lead the human delegation because of her skill in diplomacy and her calm demeanor under pressure. She had negotiated peace treaties between Earth nations, but nothing in her experience compared to this moment. Dr. Steve Collins, the world's leading expert in linguistics, stood beside Parker as they waited in the ship's main conference room. Collins had studied hundreds of human languages and created theoretical frameworks for communicating with alien species. His hands shook slightly as he reviewed his notes one final time. Colonel Nancy Wright represented Earth's military interests in the delegation. Wright had served in conflicts around the world and understood the importance of reading an enemy's intentions. She watched the airlock carefully, ready to assess any threat the aliens might pose. The airlock hissed open, and 3 figures emerged. The lead alien was tall and graceful, standing nearly 7 feet in height. Its skin had a silver metallic sheen that seemed to shift in the light. Large, dark eyes dominated a face that appeared both alien and strangely familiar. The being wore flowing robes that seemed to be made from some kind of advanced material. I am Ambassador Kethril of the Kalari, the alien said in perfect English. Its voice was melodic and calming. Thank you for welcoming us to your system. Parker stepped forward, fighting the urge to stare. Welcome aboard our ship, Ambassador Kethril. I am Helen Parker, representing the people of Earth. The alien ambassador moved with fluid grace as it approached the conference table. 2 other Kalari accompanied it, but they remained silent and observant. Morrison noticed that despite their advanced technology, the alien seemed peaceful and non-threatening. We have much to discuss, Kethril said as it took a seat across from the human delegation. But first, we must tell you something that will change how you see your place in the universe. Collins leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his nervousness. Please tell us. Kethril's large eyes seemed to look directly into each human soul. Earth is not your species' original home. Your ancestors came from a world called Tyrannus, located in what you call the Andromeda Galaxy. Thousands of years ago, Tyrannus was dying due to environmental collapse. The humans exchanged shocked glances. Wright's military training kept her focused despite the stunning revelation. You're saying we're not from Earth originally? That is correct, Kethral replied. A coalition of species, including the Kalari, helped relocate your ancestors to Earth when your original world became uninhabitable. We have been watching over humanity from a distance ever since. Parker struggled to process this information. Why are you telling us this now? The alien ambassador's expression grew serious. Because you face a threat that requires our direct assistance. An empire called the Vorthak is expanding through this region of space. They conquer worlds and enslave or destroy the species they encounter. Captain Turner, who had been listening from his position near the conference room door, felt a chill run down his spine. How long do we have? According to our calculations, the Vorthak will reach your solar system in approximately 18 months, Kethral explained. They have technology that rivals our own, but they lack something important that humanity possesses. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been recording everything for later analysis, looked up from her tablet. What do we have that they don't? Kethral seemed to smile, though its alien features made the expression difficult to read. Your species has an extraordinary ability to adapt and innovate under pressure. In our observations, humans consistently find solutions to problems that other species consider impossible. Colonel Wright leaned back in her chair. So you want to use us as weapons against this Vorthak empire? No, Kethral said firmly. We want to offer you partnership. The Kalari are also refugees from the Vorthak. They destroyed our homeworld 300 years ago. Since then, we have dedicated ourselves to protecting younger species from suffering the same fate. The revelation that the advanced aliens were also refugees shocked the human delegation. Parker realized that this meeting was not about human inferiority or alien superiority. It was about survival and mutual aid between species facing a common enemy. Captain Lewis, monitoring the situation from his ship, received regular updates from the Valiant. His crew watched as more Kalari vessels appeared throughout the solar system. Each new ship maintained peaceful formations and made no aggressive moves toward human installations. Dr. Martinez worked frantically in his Earth-based laboratory, trying to understand the biological implications of humanity's true origin. The genetic compatibility between humans and their supposed evolutionary cousins in the galaxy suggested connections that would revolutionize human understanding of life itself. Back aboard the Valiant, Kethral continued explaining the situation. The Kalari have advanced technology, but we have learned that technology alone cannot defeat the Vorthak. They are ruthless and numerous. However, combined with human creativity and determination, we believe we can mount an effective defense. Engineer. Sam Foster, monitoring the conversation from Olympus Station, began receiving technical data from the Kalari ships. The alien technology operated on principles that human science was only beginning to understand, but the designs showed remarkable compatibility with human engineering approaches. What exactly are you offering? Parker asked. Kethral gestured to one of its companions, who produced a small device that projected holographic images into the air above the table. The images showed star charts, ship designs, and weapon systems that were clearly far beyond current human capabilities. We offer full technological partnership, Kethral explained. Our manufacturing capabilities, defensive systems, and scientific knowledge. In return, we ask for humanity to join the Galactic Preservation Alliance and help us protect other species from the Vorthak threat. Dr. Collins studied the holographic displays with fascination. This technology could advance human civilization by centuries. Perhaps, Kethral agreed. But more importantly, it could ensure that human civilization survives to see those centuries. Wright examined the weapon systems displayed in the holograms. These designs would give us the ability to fight back against any invasion force. The Vorthak have never encountered a species like humanity, Kethral said. Your unpredictability and rapid adaptation make you unique in our experience. Combined with our technology, this alliance could turn the tide in a conflict that has raged for millennia. Admiral Morrison, who had remained quiet during most of the discussion, finally spoke. What guarantees do we have that you won't simply use us as soldiers in your war? Kethrill's expression conveyed what humans might interpret as sadness. "Admiral, we are a dying species. The Vorthak have taken everything from us except our knowledge and our dedication to preventing others from suffering our fate. We have no desire to rule or control anyone. We simply want to ensure that the Vorthak expansion stops here." Parker looked around the table at her fellow humans before turning back to the alien ambassador. "We'll need time to discuss this with our governments and people." "Of course," Kethrill replied, "but please understand that time is limited. The Vorthak do not negotiate and they do not show mercy. When they arrive, they will expect to find a primitive world ready for conquest. Instead, we can ensure they find something they have never encountered before. A united alliance ready to fight. Back." The meeting continued for several more hours as the Kailari shared more details about their technology and the threat facing Earth. By the time the alien delegation returned to their ship, humanity had learned that its greatest fear might also be its salvation. President Foster addressed the world that evening, announcing the alliance offer and the shocking revelation about humanity's true origins. The response was mixed, with some celebrating the opportunity for technological advancement, while others feared the implications of joining an interstellar war. As the Kailari fleet maintained its peaceful position near Jupiter, humanity faced the biggest decision in its history. The choice would determine not only the survival of Earth, but the future of human civilization among the stars. Dr. Emma Stone walked through the newly constructed integration facility with a sense of wonder that never seemed to fade. The massive complex had been built in record time, using a combination of human engineering and Kailari technology. Stone led the joint research team studying alien science, and every day brought discoveries that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about physics. Rick Murphy, her lead engineer, stood beside a Kailari device that seemed to generate energy from quantum fluctuations in space itself. Murphy had worked on fusion reactors for 15 years, but this technology made human power sources look like campfires compared to stars. "Emma, look at this," Murphy called out excitedly. "The Kailari showed me how to modify our fusion cores. Using their quantum field generators, we could increase power output by 300%. Dr. Kate Williams, the team's materials scientist, examined samples of Kailari hull plating that could repair itself when damaged. Williams had spent her career developing advanced composites, but these materials seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The molecular structure changes based on external conditions, Williams explained to Stone. It's like the material is alive and thinking. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the transformed fleet assembling around Earth. Human ships worked alongside Kailari vessels in formations that would have been impossible just months before. The sight filled him with both hope and apprehension about the coming conflict. The Admiral's meeting with Kailari Fleet Commander Zethvar had changed his perspective on the alliance. The alien commander was a veteran of countless battles against the Vorthak, and its wisdom came from centuries of experience that no human could match. "Your species possesses something we lost long ago," Zethvar had told Morrison during their private conference. "The ability to find hope in desperate situations and create solutions where none should exist." Morrison understood that the Kailari saw humanity not as junior partners, but as the key to finally defeating an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for generations. The responsibility was overwhelming, but it also inspired confidence in human potential. Captain Lucy Chen commanded the UES Builder, overseeing the rapid construction of new defensive platforms around Earth and Luna. Her crew worked around the Tao clock, installing Kailari shield generators and weapon systems on human installations. The pace of construction was incredible, made possible by alien manufacturing techniques that could create complex structures in days rather than years. Chief Engineer Paul Davis marveled at the Kailari construction methods as he watched robotic systems assemble a defensive station. "Captain, their machines work like living things. They adapt the design as they build, optimizing for conditions we didn't even consider." Systems analyst Julie Gordon monitored the integration of Kailari computers with human networks. The alien technology was so advanced that it could predict system failures before they occurred and automatically implement repairs. "It's like the computers are thinking ahead of us," Gordon reported to Chen. "They're solving problems we don't even know we have yet." The cultural exchange between humans and Kalari proved as valuable as the technological sharing. The aliens had a philosophy of patient wisdom that balanced human urgency and innovation. Kalari scientists worked alongside human researchers, each species learning from the other's approach to problem-solving. Commander Talesh, a Kalari military advisor, spent long hours with human strategists sharing knowledge about Vorthak tactics. The enemy's approach to warfare was brutal but predictable, relying on overwhelming force and terror to crush resistance before it could organize. "The Vorthak have conquered hundreds of worlds using the same methods," Talesh explained to a gathering of human military officers. "They arrive with massive fleets, destroy orbital defenses and land ground forces to subjugate the population. They have never faced organized resistance." General Harrison studied the tactical data with growing confidence. "So they're not used to fighting an enemy that can adapt their strategies." "Exactly," Talesh confirmed. "Your species' ability to improvise and change tactics during battle could be the advantage we need." On Earth, Director Carl Thompson coordinated the global manufacturing effort to produce hybrid human Kalari equipment. Factories that once built cars and electronics now produced advanced weapon systems and defense technologies. The transformation of human industry was remarkable, driven by the urgency of the approaching threat. Dr. Amy Russell worked in medical facilities learning Kalari healing techniques that could repair injuries in hours rather than weeks. The aliens' medical technology operated on principles that human doctors were only beginning to understand, but the results were undeniable. "They can regrow damaged organs and repair genetic defects," Russell explained to her colleagues. "Their medicine doesn't just treat symptoms, it restores the body to perfect health." The Kalari freely shared their medical knowledge, asking nothing in return except humanity's commitment to the Alliance. This generosity impressed human leaders and helped build trust between the species. President Foster found herself at the center of the most important negotiations in human history. The formal alliance treaty with the Kalari would commit Earth to joining the Galactic Preservation Alliance and participating in the defense of other worlds threatened by the Vorthak. "Madam President, this alliance changes everything," advised Secretary of State Mark Johnson. "We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're becoming part of something much larger." Foster understood the implications. If we succeed, humanity becomes a major power in galactic politics. If we fail, our species might not survive. The United Nations voted overwhelmingly to approve the alliance, recognizing that cooperation with the Kalari offered the best hope for human survival. The decision was not unanimous, but the majority understood that isolation was no longer an option. Ambassador Parker worked with Kalari diplomats to establish protocols for joint operations and shared governance of alliance. Resources. The complexity of integrating two different species and their technologies required careful planning and constant communication. Captain Kevin Moore took command of the first hybrid warship, the UES Phoenix, crewed by both humans and Kalari volunteers. The integration of the two species went smoother than expected, with natural cooperation developing between crew members, despite their biological differences. "The Kalari don't just work with us," Moore reported to Admiral Morrison. "They anticipate our needs and complement our strengths. It's like we were meant to work together." The Phoenix became a model for future joint operations, proving that humans and Kalari could function as a unified force rather than separate allies. The success of the integration gave both species confidence in their ability to face the Vorthak threat. Dr. Martinez published research showing that humans and Kalari had more genetic similarities than previously thought, supporting the theory that both species shared common ancestors in the distant past. This scientific evidence strengthened the cultural bonds forming between the allies. Training programs intensified across the solar system as the deadline approached. Human pilots learned to fly Kalari fighters while alien warriors studied human tactics. The exchange of knowledge flowed in both directions, creating new approaches to warfare that neither species could have developed alone. Colonel Greg Baker led joint military exercises on Mars, testing combined human Kailari units against simulated Vorthak attacks. The results exceeded expectations, with mixed units performing better than either species could alone. The humans think faster and adapt quicker, Baker reported. The Kailari provide stability and experience. Together, they're incredibly effective. Dr. Ruth Clark established communication networks linking all human colonies and Kailari ships throughout the solar system. The network would be crucial for coordinating the defense when the Vorthak arrived. Young pilot officer Jamie Scott became a symbol of the Alliance when she became the first human certified to fly Kailari fighters. Her success inspired others to embrace the technological exchange and prove that humans could master alien systems. As the months passed, the solar system transformed into a fortress defended by the combined might of two determined species. The approaching Vorthak fleet would find Earth very different from the primitive world they expected to conquer. Commander Matt Sullivan watched as the final sections of New Geneva Station locked into place high above Earth's surface. The massive orbital fortress represented the pinnacle of human Kailari cooperation, built using technologies that neither species could have created alone. Sullivan had overseen the construction from the beginning, and the completed station exceeded even his ambitious expectations. Major Alice Green, Sullivan's second-in-command, coordinated with Kailari engineers, who worked tirelessly alongside human crews. The aliens never seemed to tire, working in shifts that allowed construction to continue without interruption. Their dedication to the project impressed everyone involved. "Commander, the Kailari are installing the final weapon systems now," Green reported as she watched alien technicians work with impossible precision. "The station will be fully operational within 48 hours. Sullivan nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and nervousness. "Good work, Major. This station might be our last line of defense if the Vorthak break through our outer perimeter." The transformation of human society had accelerated beyond anyone's wildest predictions. Dr. Frank Roberts led medical teams in hospitals around the world, learning Kailari healing techniques that could cure diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. The alien medical technology operated on quantum principles that human doctors were still struggling to understand. "We can now regenerate damaged nerve tissue and restore mobility to paralyzed patients," Roberts explained to his colleagues during a global medical conference. "The Kailari techniques don't just heal, they make the human body stronger than it was before the injury." Engineer Linda Price had revolutionized manufacturing processes by combining human creativity with Kailari precision technology. Factories that once took months to retool could now switch production lines in hours, adapting to changing needs with unprecedented flexibility. "The aliens taught us that efficiency isn't about doing things faster," Price told a gathering of industrial leaders. "It's about doing the right things at the right time with perfect precision." Captain Kevin Moore stood on the bridge of the U.S. Phoenix, watching his mixed crew work together with seamless coordination. The first hybrid warship had become a testament to interspecies cooperation, with humans and Kailari serving side by side in every department. Kailari navigator Jethrin worked alongside human pilot officer Janet Ross, planning attack routes that combined alien strategic thinking with human tactical innovation. Their partnership had developed into something approaching friendship, despite the vast differences between their species. "Captain, the nav computer shows optimal attack vectors for both human and Kailari weapon systems," Ross reported. "We can maximize damage while minimizing our exposure to return fire." Moore smiled as he watched his crew work. "Outstanding. The Vorthak won't know what hit them." The cultural exchange between species had produced unexpected benefits beyond technology and military capability. Kailari philosophy of patient contemplation balanced human urgency and emotional intensity, creating new approaches to leadership and decision-making. Commander Taliesh continued sharing intelligence about the Vorthak threat with human military leaders. The enemy's psychological profile revealed beings driven by conquest and domination, incapable of understanding cooperation between different species. "The Vorthak cannot comprehend alliance," Taliesh explained during a strategy session with Admiral Morrison, They see only dominance and submission. This blindness will be their weakness. General Harrison studied tactical reports from previous Vorthak conquests, looking for patterns that could be exploited. They rely on fear and overwhelming force. They've never fought an enemy that could match their technology while exceeding their adaptability. The preparation phase had revealed humanity's greatest strength, the ability to learn and improve under pressure. Human engineers had modified Kailari designs, creating hybrid systems that performed better than either species' original technology. Dr. Rodriguez published research showing that human intuition could solve problems that Kailari logic approached too methodically. Meanwhile, Kailari patience prevented human impulsiveness from creating unnecessary risks. The combination was proving more effective than anyone had anticipated. Training programs reached their final phase as long-range sensors detected the approaching Vorthak fleet at the edge of detectable space. Pilots who had never flown anything more advanced than atmospheric fighters now commanded ships that could travel faster than light. Officer Jamie Scott had become the poster child for human adaptability, mastering Kailari flight systems so completely that she now trained alien pilots in advanced maneuvers. Her success inspired a generation of young humans to embrace the technological revolution. The hardest part wasn't learning their technology, Scott explained to a group of new pilot trainees. It was learning to think like they do, while still thinking like humans. The integration went beyond military applications. Human artists worked with Kailari creators to produce works that expressed the shared experience of two species preparing for war. The cultural fusion created art forms that neither species could have imagined alone. Dr. Collins had become fluent in the Kailari language, discovering that their communication included emotional and conceptual layers that human speech couldn't express. The linguistic bridge between species had opened new possibilities for cooperation and understanding. They don't just speak words, Collins explained to Ambassador Parker. They communicate entire concept structures that include emotional context and logical frameworks simultaneously. Parker used this knowledge to negotiate the final details of the Alliance Treaty, ensuring that both species understood their commitments and obligations. The formal agreement would bind Earth and the Kailari Collective together in mutual defense for generations to come. Construction of defensive installations reached completion throughout the solar system. Luna Base had been expanded into a fortress capable of withstanding massive assault, while Mars colonies were protected by shield generators that could deflect energy weapons. Commander Carter oversaw the final preparations at Luna Base, coordinating with defensive installations on asteroids and space platforms throughout the system. The network of fortifications would force any attacking fleet to fight through multiple layers of resistance. "Sir, all defensive systems are online and operational," reported his communications officer. "We've got overlapping fields of fire covering every approach vector." Dr. Adams worked with Kailari scientists to create early warning systems that could detect enemy ships days before they reached the inner solar system. The advanced sensor network would provide crucial intelligence about Vorthak numbers and capabilities. President Foster addressed the world one final time before the expected arrival of the enemy fleet. Her speech was broadcast to every human settlement and transmitted to Kailari ships throughout the system. "We stand together not as separate species, but as allies united in the defense of freedom and life itself," Foster declared. "Whatever comes next, we face it as one." The months of preparation had transformed humanity from an isolated species into junior partners in a galactic alliance. Human colonies beyond Earth had been fortified and supplied, while evacuation plans ensured civilian safety during the coming battle. Captain Turner led reconnaissance missions to the outer system, gathering final intelligence on enemy movements. His ship carried both human and Kailari sensors, providing comprehensive data on Vorthak fleet strength and deployment patterns. "Admiral, long-range sensors confirm enemy arrival in approximately 72 hours, Turner reported to Morrison during his final briefing. "They're coming in force, but they don't know what's waiting for them." Morrison reviewed the defensive plans one last time, satisfied that everything possible had been done to prepare for the invasion. The combined human Kailari fleet was smaller than the approaching enemy force, but it possessed advantages that the Vorthak couldn't anticipate. Engineer Foster completed final modifications to Earth's orbital defense grid, installing hybrid weapon systems that combined human innovation with Kalari power generation. The planet had become a fortress that could defend itself even if the fleet was defeated. As the countdown to contact continued, both species felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. The Vorthak Empire had never been stopped before, but they had never faced an alliance like this one. Humanity was about to discover whether their partnership with the Kalari would be enough to turn the tide of an ancient war. The Vorthak Empire arrived exactly 18 months after the Kalari had predicted, their dark fleet emerging from hyperspace like a plague of metal locusts at the edge of the solar system. War Chief Graktar commanded the invasion force from his massive flagship, expecting to find a primitive world ripe for easy conquest. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the enemy fleet take formation through long-range sensors. The Vorthak ships were angular and menacing, designed to inspire fear as much as to wage war. Morrison counted over 200 vessels, each one larger than anything in the human fleet. "Admiral, enemy fleet is maintaining position at the heliopause," reported Lieutenant Commander Brooks. "They appear to be conducting reconnaissance scans of the inner system." Morrison smiled grimly. "Let them look. They're about to get quite a surprise." Captain Turner led the first human Kalari patrol squadron that encountered Vorthak scouts near Neptune. His mixed crew had trained for this moment for months, but nothing could fully prepare them for seeing the enemy up close. The Vorthak ships were black as space itself, covered in weapon ports and armor that seemed to absorb light. "All ships engage on my mark," Turner ordered as his squadron moved into attack formation. "Remember, we want prisoners if possible. Command needs intelligence on their capabilities." The battle began when Turner's fighters opened fire on a Vorthak reconnaissance group. The enemy ships immediately responded with devastating energy weapons, but their shots passed harmlessly through the space where human ships had been moments before. Officer Scott led a flight of hybrid fighters that seemed to dance around the slower Vorthak vessels. The enemy had never faced opponents who could change tactics in the middle of combat, adapting their strategies based on real-time battlefield conditions. "This is incredible," Scott reported over the comm system. "Their ships are powerful, but they fight like machines. No creativity, no adaptation." War Chief Graktar watched the skirmish through his tactical displays with growing confusion. The defenders were using technology that matched Vorthak capabilities, but their tactics were completely unpredictable. Ships would suddenly change course, weapons would fire from unexpected angles, and formations would shift without apparent reason. "How are they moving like that?" Graktar demanded of his tactical officers. "Our sensors show they should not be able to maneuver so quickly." His subordinates had no answers. In centuries of conquest, the Vorthak had never encountered defenders who could match their technology while exceeding their tactical flexibility. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the battle from the integration facility, analyzing enemy weapon signatures and defensive capabilities. Her research during the preparation phase proved crucial as human-modified Kalari shields absorbed Vorthak energy blasts more effectively than pure alien technology. "The modifications are working perfectly," Rodriguez reported to Admiral Morrison. "Our hybrid systems are showing 30% better performance against their weapons than standard Kalari equipment." Commander Sullivan coordinated the defense from New Geneva Station as the main Vorthak fleet advanced toward the inner solar system. The massive orbital fortress bristled with weapons that represented the best of both human and Kalari engineering. "All defensive platforms report ready," Major Green announced. "We've got overlapping fields of fire covering every approach vector to Earth." The Vorthak advance slowed as they encountered the first layer of defensive installations hidden among the asteroids. Captain Lewis led ambush attacks from concealed positions, striking enemy formations before disappearing back into the asteroid field. "Hit them hard and fast, then get out," Lewis ordered his squadron commanders. "Make them think we've got forces everywhere." The psychological warfare was working. Vorthak commanders had expected to sweep aside primitive defenses, but instead they faced coordinated resistance from an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Commander Carter fired the opening shots from Luna Base as the enemy fleet approached the inner system. The moon's surface erupted with defensive fire that caught the Vorthak completely off guard. They had detected the human installations, but underestimated their firepower. "Direct hit on their lead cruiser," reported Carter's tactical officer. "Enemy ship is venting atmosphere and falling out of formation." The tide of battle began to turn when Captain Chen led a desperate assault using modified civilian ships loaded with human-designed weapons. Her improvised fleet attacked from an eastern angle the Vorthak hadn't anticipated, exploiting a gap in their defensive formation. "Cargo haulers and passenger ships aren't supposed to fight like this," Chen muttered as her converted freighter unleashed a barrage of missiles at a Vorthak battleship. "But nobody told us what we're supposed to do." Engineer Foster's modifications to the orbital defense grid proved their worth as Earth's protective systems came online. The planet disappeared behind a shimmer of energy shields while weapon platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites began firing at enemy ships. The Vorthak found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow their expectations. Human commanders made decisions that seemed illogical, but produced effective results. Kailari wisdom combined with human unpredictability created tactical combinations that the enemy couldn't counter. General Harrison coordinated ground-based defenses as Vorthak dropships attempted to land on Earth's surface. The aliens had never encountered defenders who could fight effectively in multiple environments simultaneously. "Sir, they're trying to establish landing zones in 7 different locations," reported his operations officer. "But our mobile defense units are hitting them before they can organize." President Foster remained in the command bunker beneath the Global Defense Council headquarters, coordinating civilian evacuations while monitoring the space battle. The survival of human civilization depended on the next few hours. War Chief Graktar realized his invasion was failing when half his fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The defenders weren't just resisting, they were winning. For the first time in his military career, the Vorthak commander considered retreat. "How is this possible?" Graktar roared at his tactical staff. "They are a primitive species. We should have conquered them in hours." His communications officer looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. "War Chief, they're not primitive. They're using technology that rivals our own, but they fight like nothing we've ever encountered." The final phase of the battle began, when Admiral Morrison led the combined human Kailari fleet in a coordinated assault on the remaining Vorthak forces. The Alliance fleet was smaller, but it fought with unity and purpose that the enemy couldn't match. Captain Moore's hybrid crew aboard the Phoenix exemplified the cooperation between species that made victory possible. Human intuition identified enemy weaknesses while Kailari precision exploited them with devastating effectiveness. "Target their command ship," Moore ordered as the Phoenix closed with Graktar's flagship. "If we can take out their leadership, the rest of their fleet might surrender." The Phoenix engaged the Vorthak flagship in single combat, while the rest of the Alliance fleet mopped up enemy stragglers. The battle was brutal but brief, ending when Graktar's ship suffered critical damage and began to drift helpless through space. War Chief Graktar transmitted his surrender as his ship's life support systems failed. The proud Vorthak commander had never imagined he would live to see his empire's first major defeat. "Unknown defenders, you have won this engagement," Graktar broadcast on all frequencies. "But the Vorthak Empire will return with greater force. You have only delayed your inevitable conquest." Admiral Morrison responded with quiet confidence. "War Chief, tell your empire that Earth and her allies will be waiting, and next time, we'll be ready for you." The surviving Vorthak ships retreated toward the edge of the solar system, carrying news of their defeat back to their empire. For the first time in centuries, a Vorthak invasion had been completely repelled. The victory celebration was tempered by the knowledge that the war was far from over. The Vorthak would return, but they would face an alliance that had proven itself in combat and gained confidence from victory. Ambassador Parker worked with Kailari diplomats to formalize Earth's membership in the Galactic Preservation Alliance. The successful defense had earned humanity respect throughout the galaxy and established Earth as a major power in interstellar politics. President Foster addressed both species in a joint ceremony broadcast throughout the solar system. "Today, we proved that cooperation between different peoples can overcome any threat. We are no longer just humans or just Kailari. We are allies, united in purpose and stronger together than apart. The months following the battle saw a rapid expansion of human presence in the galaxy. Captain Scott led the first joint exploration missions beyond the solar system, carrying the message of the Alliance to other worlds threatened by the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Collins worked to establish communication with species that had never encountered humans before, using the linguistic skills he had developed working with the Kailari. The galaxy was vast and full of potential allies who had been waiting for someone to unite them against the Vorthak threat. Admiral Morrison reflected on how humanity's greatest fear had become their greatest opportunity.